Welcome back to the Berean Preterist. My name is Richard Eckhart. Today is September 12th, 2019. I wanted to briefly talk about William Bell and Don K. Preston and how they use Christian rhetoric online, in the various online forums, and even in their videos. So what you've got is William Bell and Don K. Preston using language that a Christian who has a classic view of Christianity would use. And I know with a full assurance that William Bell and Don K. Preston have alternative definitions to the terms that they're using. When they say crucified with Christ or being raised with Christ, these guys have definitions that do not line up with a classic view of Christianity. And I wanted to point out that many years ago on the online forums, there was a guy by the name of Larry Siegel. And Larry Siegel is, he's kind of checked out of the scene. But it's important to note that he was part of the inner circle with Max King. If you go back to the 90s, there was an inner circle, and it was essentially William Bell, who has been with Max King since the early 1980s. William Bell, Don K. Preston, Jack Scott, and Larry Siegel. And out from this inner circle of Max King, which is the very beginning of the Max King cult, actually, what you've got throughout the years are just basically lackeys and minions. And quite frankly, Larry Siegel was a lackey and minion for William Bell and Don K. Preston. And I wanted to point out that online, Larry Siegel and myself, Larry Siegel and I used to go up against one another in various discussions and debates. And here's a guy who was radically operating in his personal flesh and radically trying to appeal to the personal flesh of other people. And when you're in an online forum, an online group, it's all about trying to win converts and trying to win disciples. So rather than appeal to God's truth and want to stand up for the Lord Jesus Christ, in most cases you're going to find guys who are wanting to make converts and disciples unto their particular either religious business or cult or agenda. And that's what Larry Siegel would do. Radically emotional. And the one thing that I wanted to point out is that Larry Siegel would take the time to get to know your personality and character and your rhetoric, the rhetoric that you were using. And he would then start using that same rhetoric. So it's radically operating in the flesh. But I wanted to point out that both William Bell and Don K. Preston do the same thing. You see that their rhetoric ends up going through a metamorphosis. And more recently, they've been changing a lot of their rhetoric to try and sound even more and more like a classic view of Christianity and even individual body view preterism. But they have a core heresy where they say that the old covenant essentially went from Adam to AD 70, and they have a body of death, a corporate body of death, of old covenant death, that they say was going through a 40-year dying and rising process and putting on a spirit body of their false Jesus Christ. So I just wanted to point out that you got to watch the rhetoric of these guys. Larry Siegel would constantly do it, and both William Bell and Don K. Preston do the same thing. They are trying to win converts and disciples to the Max King cult. And please be aware of that. These guys are slick. They're charlatans. They are not Christians. They have a false Jesus Christ with a false gospel. Thanks for watching. Be blessed. Peace to you in the name of God the Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Peace.